Hi, welcome to the So Much More podcast where we add the depths and the complexities back to the just. I am your host, Elayna Bell, and welcome to episode 1, but I called the last one episode 1, so episode 2, but whichever. Welcome back to this episode. Today we're going to talk about motherhood. It is so much more than being a mom. I was going to do a 2-part series, but I think I'm just going to do my best to put it all in one video because I don't know that it will take super long. But yeah, so much more than just a mom. Do you know that in the beginning, when I say that adding the depths and the complexities back to the just, that's the part that I'm talking about? The just a mom or just a blah, blah, blah. It's a confusing beginning, but that's what I mean. Anyway, this is an easy topic. Not an easy topic because it's easy. Motherhood is so depthy and length. We could probably have 9 million episodes about being a mom. But being easy in a sense of we all have a mom and we all know a mom. We may not know our mom, but the truth still stands. We all know a mom and we all have one. So it's easy. And plus, on top of that, I am a mom. I'm a mommy of 6 children. I said that last time, but if you're new or if this is your first time watching, I have 6 babies. I have a 10-year-old all the way down to my bald bestie down here, and she is 3 months old. Not quite, but almost. So it's really easy for me to chat about. Motherhood is so depth, so far, so deep, so wide. Like I said, so much we could talk about. So I think I'll just start at the beginning, how motherhood comes about, and not the birds and the bees. Wrong podcast, wrong show. That's a different show. I will not be doing that here. But back at how we all become mothers in a sense of we all start off as ladies, right? We all start off as women. Well, in my case, I was 17 when I had my daughter, so I started off as a girl. But we all start off as women. Some of us entrepreneurs, some of us adventurers, some of us scholars, some of us career-driven women, etc. But all of us as women, dreamers, so on and so forth. All of us as somebody, as a person with ambitions and goals of our own. And then we get pregnant, you know, and that, although happens overnight, doesn't happen overnight. You know what I'm saying? It's a long process when you're pregnant. And although you're a mother when the baby is in the womb or when at conception, you're not technically a physical mother yet. You don't have a baby in your hands. You're not holding a baby. So during those 9 months, women are still women. We're still doing what we do. We are still, oftentimes until maternity leave for the typical woman, or until we're so big that we can no longer function correctly. We are still doing our thing. And then, when we give birth, it's like the change happens overnight. You become a mom to a baby, a caretaker to a baby, and that becomes your primary role, right? You are now changing the poopy diapers, feeding the baby, whether bottle or breastfed. You are now waking up at night. You are now not taking showers and staying in the same clothes for a week. You are not eating correctly, but yet taking care of someone. You become relentlessly selfless, right? You end up having to take care of a complete other person. And you oftentimes lose who you were before for a little while. Maybe not the entire time, but there's definitely a sense of losing who you are, right? And that can last, from just the newborn trenches. But for many women, it lasts probably the entirety of motherhood, which I think is a large reason a lot of women don't want to become mothers, or they put off becoming mothers because it's hard to die to yourself to that level and to that extent. And the women who do become mothers, it's a big topic in the mother community. A lot of women resent becoming a mother for that reason because their identity gets lost and they end up with the title of mom, not only to others, but also to themselves. And that's what they begin to know themselves as. So I'm going to segue back to that in a moment. But I kind of want to go into why that is and why that happens, right? So, like I said, you become relentlessly selfless. You end up putting on this hat of chef and daycare. And in my case, I am a homeschooling mom, so teacher, doctor, dentist, you name it. You have literally every job. And it's hard to have every job and have the job of taking care of yourself, right? And that is a rough job, especially when you begin, especially when, okay, not to ruffle feathers, but especially when you halfway do it. When you're kind of in a space where you're resenting the position that you're in, you're not necessarily giving it your all, although you're doing it all the time, right? When we're not learning, and something that I had to learn was the more that I did things resentfully or with resentment, the harder it was. So having to make food every day for somebody who depended on me, having to change their clothes, having to play Barbies for the 90,000th time, having to, et cetera, draw the same picture, having to eat the same invisible food over and over. The more that we do that stuff when we don't want to, the more frustrated that I began to feel, and that other mothers have said that they begin to feel, right? And then a lot of the times the reason we're doing that is because we're holding on to ourselves so hard. We want to be on our phone. We feel overwhelmed. We feel tapped out. And so we're struggling to hold on to ourselves with every single piece of us that can. But that often causes resentment to the child, unnecessary resentment to the child, because I mean, dog, they're just a baby, right? At least that's what I have to tell myself, that it's just a baby. But when we do things in that manner, um, although we feel like we're holding on to ourselves, we lose ourselves. But in the opposite end, when we fully and completely give ourselves over to being a mom, we can also still feel like we lose ourselves and we've lost ourselves because we're fully, wholeheartedly becoming a mom. Either way, though, you end up wearing the hat of many, many different things. Again, what I found is it's much easier to, if either way I'm going to have to be a mom, right? If either way I'm going to have to put on the mom hat for a period of time, forever, but it's like super mom hat for a little bit, then I might as well do it wholeheartedly, right? I might as well give my child everything that I can possibly give them, and I will get my chance to be me at a different point and at a different time. But being a mom takes so much more. Being a good mom, at least, that raises a child that doesn't grow up with childhood trauma, is being a mom who goes all in, right? Well, inevitably, like I said, you're going to lose yourself in that process. And that might be a good thing, actually. That's what I've learned, is that it actually turned out to be quite a good thing, because who I was before was not suited for who I needed to become. It's a big and hard job. That's why I'm like, motherhood really is such a topic that could go on and on and on and on and on. But from mothering 6 kids, the things that I've learned is go all in motherhood, and you'll find yourself later. Or you'll find yourself in between, find little moments, but you'll have time to yourself fully and truly later, when it's time and when it's ready. Motherhood being so complex and such a rough thing. So if we look in scriptures, motherhood is sanctifying, to bear children is sanctifying. And I used to not understand what that meant. And then when I went through labor, I was like, I feel like I definitely understand what this means. And then when I went through labor 6 times, I was like, I definitely understand what this means. But what I figured over the time of having all 6 of them is that the more I gave myself, the more I became a new person, right? The more that the God washed me white, the more that was taught lessons through teaching my kids, the more I realized how whiny and crybaby I am by watching my whiny crybaby babies, right? The more I realized how I needed to be at the feet of Jesus as my children were at the feet of me. And really, it completely changed me as a person. And as I lost myself, I found a new person, thanks to God, right? I wouldn't have found that person otherwise. But nonetheless, I became a new person. And I'm mommies who are struggling right now with not knowing who you are anymore. I'm glad I'm not that person, and I'm glad I never found the person who was struggling to find who she was when I had my first and second babies, or when my babies were smaller, because that person wouldn't thrive in where I'm at today. And so my point was, for that second part, is to go all in, wear the many, many hats, read books about what to do and how to be a mom. Jump in, dive in, watch sermons, watch movies, not movies, podcasts, watch shows, learn how to do the best that you can, and do everything it takes to be a mom and to be a good one, and worry about you later. Halfway doing selflessness is really just, at the end of the day, selfish. You have to full blown do selflessness in order to be selfless when it comes to your children, at least. And back to the very first part, as I was saying, the many moms who don't, or the many women who don't want to have children now or want to wait and live their life, all hats off to you. It is what it is. I see why you would want to do that. But it's like a handed knowledge, a handed experience that you'll never get. I don't think there's any place where you can learn to be more selfless than having a child. I don't think there's anywhere where you can grow more as a human being if you truly let it. I don't think there's anywhere to find more beauty in being a mom. And a lot of people who aren't moms are like, well, okay, of course you say that. But I mean, honestly, truly, there's nothing more beautiful than having a child and raising a child. And, there's a time and place. I'm not saying everybody needs to hop in at 16 and have a baby like moi, but I am saying there is a lot of beauty in having a child. And there's a lot of beauty in the derail that it does to where you're going and who you are. There is a lot of beauty in ending up a brand new person that you couldn't even imagine becoming without having children. The sleepless nights are 100% worth it. All of it, the not eating all the time, the cuckoo crazy being for a little bit, the postpartum, all of it is so worth it for the person that you become at the other end, for the person that you are when you've been washed white by Jesus, is so, so worth it. You will lose yourself, but you have to lose yourself to find yourself. And when you find yourself, the person that you will find will be so much more than you were before, and so much more than a mom. The hobbies that you have will be new. The person that you are will be new. The friends that you make will be new. The habits that you have will be new. And you'll be like from Pikachu to Raichu. I think that's right. You'll be the upgraded version of yourself. Just quick story of my own, to tell you all my information to vomit on you. I had my first daughter, like I said, when I was 16, or I got pregnant with her when I was 16, and then had her when I was 17. I got married at 21, and then I had 5 babies virtually back to back. So from my second oldest daughter, I had her when I was 21, and then I just had my last baby, and I'm 28. So I had 5 babies in 6 years, and I wanted in that time to be somebody so bad. I wanted to entrepreneur. I wanted to be thin. I wanted to go out with my friends. I felt like I was so much more than just my kid's mom, and I was, and I still am. But when holding on to that thought, I ended up where now, or last year, or whatever, ended up having a really hard time figuring out who I even was. Because instead of, evolving with the times, So last year when I had my son, he's my biggest gap. He and my daughter, this one, are almost 2 years apart, or they are 2 years apart. And last year, when I had such a big gap, I was lost. Girl, I was lost because I was so, if you could see my fist down here, it's tight because I was so hell bent on being who I was before because I was so much more than a mom the entire time, right? I was Elayna, but like my younger Elayna. And so when I had that freedom, it was like a dog being let out of a cage. I was like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be beautiful. I'm going to do all the things. And it was like a rebellion. Like, honestly, it was like a rebellion. Like, and ultimately, who I was rebelling from was the Lord, ultimately. But it was like I wanted a freedom that I felt like I had never had before. Where this time around, having Paisley and learning from that experience, I'm learning to be more contained and more controlled and learning from who I've become over time. Because 23-year-old me, 21-year-old me couldn't succeed now. Is who God has brought me to become, that is able to teach. I didn't know half this stuff, you know? It didn't, I wasn't able to conjure up half the things that I can conjure up now just from experience and time, you know? Um, but I really, moms, we've got to lean into that. We've got to lean into the things that we're taught in the time because you are so much more than a mom, but you'll be so much more as you grow. And I'm excited for myself, but I'm also excited for all the mommies who have babies who are going through it right now and want to be somebody that they can't be. I'm excited to for you guys to grow and become, and what that journey and what that adventure is going to take you on, because your ability to be an adventurer then is going to change and grow so much to the adventurer you're going to be able to be, or the entrepreneur you're going to be able to be, or the chef, or the so on, after you have the experience of having your family. It really does teach you so much. I mean, dog, it teaches you so much. It's like a speed course through life. Like, I feel like I could be a doctor. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I'm saying? So I'm rambling at this point. I really am rambling. There's 9 million things. I'm legitimately could talk about this for hours and hours. It's only 20 minutes long, but this is like, Elayna, stop talking. Just move on. Just go ahead. My husband says I have this issue. Well, it's because, sorry, on the topic of being a mom, I talk to kids all day long and they just listen. And really, that's my husband's fault because he shouldn't have gave me so many kids who just have to listen to me all day, because my poor children. I'm like a lecturing machine. I could just talk and talk and talk and talk, which hence the podcast. But anyway, mommies, you'll have your time. You are so much more than a mother. It does take so much more work than what people realize. But because of that work and because you are so much more, you will become even greater than when you started. And that's great and that's awesome and that's amazing and a blessing from the Lord. Hold fast to what the Lord is telling you. Hold fast to what you're learning. Hold fast to the basic principles of yourself. Implement it in your family. Take your kids with you. Adventure, RV with your kids if you're an adventurer. Entrepreneur with your kids if you're an entrepreneur. Cook with your kids if you're a chef. Enjoy the journey and know that God always takes and doubles what you give. He doubles it back to you. So with that, I love you guys so much more, right? And I will see you guys. What is this, Disney Channel? Next time on whatever. Okay, bye guys.